Well, our next guest represents a number of Vancouver Canucks and a number of Vancouver Canucks who are in the spotlight this summer and heading into training camp. It is our pleasure to welcome hockey agent Dan Milstein of Gold Star to secure some price. Dan, how you doing?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for making the time here today. First of all, we're talking about your client, Andrei Kuzmenko, on today's show, and it has been quite a whirlwind or worldwide whirlwind for him this summer. Dan, tell us the whole story on Andrei Kuzmenko's summer, what he wanted to do and what you had to do to make it happen and make it all work together with what the Canucks were expecting this summer.
Well, obviously he wanted to be in the best shape of his life. And so we were put up to a task because he was going to visit Bali for a few months. And obviously in the country of Bali, there isn't really much happening as far as the on and off ice training. So we got him a one-on-one trainer for the month of June. We had a different trainer for the month of July. And then he came to the United States. He's been in Miami through the last week, training with all the boys at Florida Panthers facility. So it's been quite a summer for our friend Andrei.
Yeah, what did the Canucks think when he said, "I'm going to spend most of my offseason in Bali"?
Oh my God, they weren't having it. But so we've heard from the head coach, we've heard from everybody, and maybe perhaps even the janitor too. So obviously everyone was concerned, but I told everybody to take a chill pill. We had it under control. We've called up the best guys. The month of June, he was training with Pavel Datsuk's former the summer's trainer. So and then in July we had another fella who has trained numerous NHL players. So we knew he was going to be in good shape and under control the entire summer. So his task was to stay farther from the table and closer to the gym.
So he'd been on the ice in the month of August. He was off ice for June and July and on ice in August. Is that fair?
No, he skated in Bali as well. We had the training facility. We found the ice in Bali. So
no, you didn't.
Yes,
we did. Fine ice in Bali, Dan.
That's what we do. That's why we're one of the best ones in the business.
That's unbelievable.
But honestly, tell us the story. Where is there an ice hockey rink in Bali?
Or is it synthetic?
No, guys, it's a legitimate thing. We've looked it up, and I have spoken to the rinks manager numerous times. I mean, we had it all figured out, ready for Andre. He got everything he needed and then some, and so he spent the entire time preparing, working out. A lot of unconventional stuff. I'm sure you've seen it on my on my Instagram and my Twitter. So he couldn't find weights, so he found some wood that he used instead of the weights, and there were no elliptical and some other machines. So we discovered some staircases and stuff like that. So it's whatever it takes to get our client in shape. And we had a long conversation, and obviously. He's in Russia, KHL, and perhaps anywhere in Europe. You basically get like 3 weeks off season, and then you come in, and your preseason is 2 months or so. Like teams in the KHL, they go from basically early July, and then the season begins September 1. In the NHL, it is up to you to be fully prepared, and you show up fully ready to go because our camp is medical first day, 2 or 3 days to camp, and then preseason games, and then season starts. So he had to change quite a few things to prepare for last season, and of course it wasn't good enough. And so he's changed up some things, and we expect new and improved Andrei Kuzmenko coming and rolling into Vancouver in the next.
Improved. Wow.
Yeah. Well, Dan, like his some of the images on your Instagram, it kind of looked like Sylvester Stallone in Rocky IV, except for a tropical climate and not a wintry climate. Yeah. Although maybe he is a Drago fan.
Yes.
Maybe he was rooting for Drago in
that
movie.
So the trainers got him in shape. And so we had a big Zoom call, the kickoff in May, and I basically told him, he is not your friend. You could brag about him later after he comes back and puts up 50 goals next season, but for the time being, he is not your friend. You're not to socialize with this guy. You got to get him back. You got to get him here in the best shape of his life. And so Andre appreciated it quite a bit. And then so we'll obviously huge seasons ahead of us here, and he'll be ready to go. But he's a great guy in great spirits. He's I expect some wonderful things from him and Vancouver Canucks as a whole for this upcoming season. I'm excited, guys. Very excited.
Yeah, you're always excited, Dan. And I must say, those who watched training camp last year saw Andre bent over at the waist, some maybe looking for a little bit more air than his teammates, and yet he goes out and has a 39-goal season. Dan, were you at all concerned about the shape he was in at the start of last year?
We were concerned, and I had the same kind of conversation with all of my incoming NHL players out of Europe, especially out of Russia. You first come in, and then I told Ilya Mikheyev the same story years ago. You come in and you go hard, and then your career goes up, and then in November you kind of out of breath, and then you have a dip and it goes down, and then late December through the end of the season you go back up like this, and then towards the end of the season you're out of gas completely. And so we try to tell those guys, but up until you actually go through it and experience it, you don't know, right? So Ilya went through. Virtually all the guys have gone through it the first pro season, and so Andre knew exactly what he needed to do in order to come back in the best shape. I mean, look at his half naked pictures on Instagram. He looks great, the best shape of his life. And so I'm excited. You guys should be excited too. And 39 goals. That's a quite disappointment. We're hoping.
I can tell everybody here was not disappointed. They were quite happy with what ended up happening. What off the ice and just off the ice and on the ice, just totality of his experience. What do you think Kuzmenko's thought of his time in Vancouver, and the fact that it almost feels like, and I guess Mikheyev's timing was about the same too. Like, they've created a bit of a Russian Hamlet here, where it's been traditionally the Russian players have been attracted to Miami and to the New York area, and here's now Vancouver with a collection of Russian and Belarusian players that probably makes it feel a little bit more like home for a lot of these guys.
Well, the new thing in Russia and Belarus is sushi. So there isn't a better place in the entire NHL world than living in Vancouver. So I mean, certainly it's it's clearly it's not the taxes or anything, but all the
or cost of living. No,
cost of
Dan,
living. Right.
You need to take your show on the road here. Okay,
I mean,
some open mic nights here.
Yeah, so it's. Obviously, you guys have the new management and all the new guys. I mean, they come from from Sweden, from Pittsburgh, from other places around the world. But look, you are in the National Hockey League to play games. I mean, all of us, including myself, we're fortunate to either be in it or work around it, and that is such a privilege. And same thing for the guys. I mean, sure, the sun may be a little bit warmer in Miami, and surely if you like the cars, you could be in Detroit closer to the auto industry. But in the end, Vancouver is a great place. The fans are sometimes crazy, including Rick Dolivall and some of the other guys. But all the jokes aside, I mean, you guys have a great fan base, a phenomenal city. And you're only 4 or 5 hours away from the sun of Miami or whatever else you need to be doing. So, it's good. No complaints, and guys are absolutely loving it. Ilya Mikheyev had well over 15 or 20 teams, can't remember exactly, where he could have taken his talents, and he chose Vancouver. And Andre had 31 teams besides Vancouver to choose from, and he chose Vancouver as well. So there you have it.
How's Ilya Mikheyev's recovery going? Is he going to be 100% for the start of preseason?
Ilya is doing great. He's worked. He's the hardest working guy in business, or one of them. He arrived back to Vancouver last week. He is in great spirits. He's skating. He's working hard. He had a meeting with the doctors in the U.S. that have operated on him. And we expect full recovery, and hopefully he'll be ready before the start of the season.
Is it? Are they going to have to take it a little slower in training camp and preseason with Mikheyev just to make sure?
I mean, this is something we're going to talk to in a few days once we get the doctor's blessings and stuff like that too. I mean, certainly, it was a very unfortunate accident that happened last off season, and so this is I keep reminding Ilya that this is not a sprint; it's a marathon. I mean, we got 82 games in addition to 6 or 7 preseason games, plus hopefully this time around we'll have a playoff season as well. And so it's not about the preseason; it's about the entire 82 games and then some.
The roster battles in training camp. They're going to be there for the Canucks, particularly on the wing. Young players trying to get a piece of the pie is going to be difficult, and yet there's going to be some expectation for the Vancouver Canucks for somebody to grab a piece of that. What do you forecast as the opportunity? What do you think Danila Klimovich is thinking, for instance, about his lot in life? It seems like he would be a long shot to make the team, and yet there's so clearly some progression in his game, and it's looking linear right now, which is pretty rare for a young player.
So before I talk to my friend Danila Klimovich, let me tell you about my other friend and client Pavel Datsuk. When Pavel showed up to a training camp in Detroit in 2001, 2002, there were 13 future Hall of Famers, well, one including himself, hopefully soon. And so never say never. So he is, Danila is getting ready to show up to a training camp. And then going back to Pavel used to say that, when you're 18 to 23, you're trying to come in, you're trying to take a spot from somebody. To be on the team, and from 23 to 28, you're coming in trying to get higher up in the lineup and get more responsibilities and opportunities. And once you're like 30 plus years old, and you're coming in trying to fight off those hungry 18 to 23-year-olds. So it never stops, and it doesn't matter if you're 19, 20, 21, or 39 years old. You're coming in. Everybody's coming into the training camp. Everybody got the same opportunity, and a little more, a little less. But bottom line is, it's all about how you do in the training camp and how you start your regular season. So there'll be injuries, there'll be many things that would happen, and so and I keep telling Danila the same thing. You're gonna have you're gonna have your chance. I mean, going back to Danila, he has not gone home. He stayed. Outside of taking a week off to come to visit me in Florida, he's been working hard. He's been in Vancouver doing all the right things. What a great kid. He could be playing right now on all 23 KHL teams. But he's here. He's not thinking about anything other than continuing to develop. This is, once again, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And
does he feel that, Dan? Is he encouraged by his own development? Because he goes from scoring 6 goals, and when he was sort of way too good for the leagues he was in, he was scoring 6 goals in games and that sort of thing. And then he comes to the AHL, where he's a kid playing with men, and he's lucky to get a goal every 3 weeks. That probably has an effect on a kid, but that started to pick up, of course, last season. But is he encouraged? Does he see his own development?
Guys, of course he sees his own development. I mean, he was at the age of 18. He was one of the youngest, if not the youngest, player in the AHL, and it takes time. He's been given bigger and more opportunities, and sometimes it's not about scoring goals every game. It's about playing it the right way, playing it, fitting in the system, and then he'll have his chance. He'll have his opportunity. And he'll take it from there. So he's not a complainer, he's loving it and appreciates every minute, and he's extremely happy to be in Vancouver. And we'll see what happens. But I do hope that he will have some NHL action this season, and we'll just take it from there.
Dan, I can remember years ago talking to Kurt Overhart, the agent, who said, what helped my guys was I had Brendan Morrison on the team when Kevin Bieksa got there, and there was mentorship. Then I had Bieksa on the team when Ryan Kessler got there, and there was mentorship. Ilya Mikheyev, Andre, and Danila, what's their relationship like? And do you anticipate, and is it already happening, that you have mentorship between your clients here with the 3 guys in Vancouver?
Guys, it always is, right? So I've had the other day a player on another team Pavel Datsuk has called the guy, right? So we've had other guys that basically stepped up. Same thing here. Ilya and Andre have been doing. Have been helping out Danila quite a bit, so it's going to take some time for him, but definitely he has some great guys around him, and I will take it from there. But then, of course, if Andre goes on to score 65 goals, you know what, Vancouver may or may not be able to afford him, and what happens? Danila steps up and takes up his spot on the team.
You got it all planned out, Dan. You got it all planned out.
Look, we're just having a good time, and same thing. So the younger guys are coming in, and then the veterans always help out, and then they're recycled. There's one. There's I have a great example happening in Tampa right now. So one of the Russian players, the young ones, came in straight from Russia, and Nikita Kucherov found out that he didn't have a place in Tampa, so. He has given them one of his homes to live in while he is preparing for the season. Same thing. Kirill Marchenko in Columbus, he lived in Fedor Tutin's house, and then same thing here. I mean, when Ilya isn't here, Danila gets to use his car and stuff like that too. So they are, so there is no. There is no competition. They're all our friends off ice, right. And on ice. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Lastly, Dan, and on a sadder note, I know we've been communicating, but all our condolences and sympathies are with the Amarov family, your former client, Rodion, and you shared a very touching story the other day about a stuffed toy, an Albatross, that you'll take with it. I know you've been going back and forth between Europe and North America this year, consoling the Amarov family. Tell us the story about the Amarov or the Albatross that you posted the other day.
So we found out that Rodion was sick, and he was it was an operable brain cancer about 2 years ago. We went public with it approximately February of 2022, and so there hasn't been 3 or 4 weeks that I did not fly back, whether it was Germany, Russia, Canada, US, wherever, to be with Rodion. He's such a great guy. Not a single time did he complain. Not once. The day when he got 6 months to leave the note from the doctors, I was driving him back to my house, and I looked at him and I said, "Rody, how you doing?" He goes like, "I'm okay. I'm concerned for my parents." That was the weakest point in the entire 2 years, the weakest time that he basically said that he was concerned for the parents, never for himself. He was blind for the last 8 or 9 months. He was completely paralyzed for the last 2 or 3 months or so. And so we knew that the day was coming, but he did not one time complain. And a story about 6 months ago, I wanted him to move his money out of North America back to Russia, so that the thought was, the parents are there. There's no way for them to get to North America, so that let's move the money over. But I didn't say that to him because he never acknowledged that he was deadly ill. So I said, "Hey, Rudy, let's move money to Russia. So while you're there, while you're getting well, you'll have some money for yourself." And he basically looked at me and said, "You know what? The Russian ruble is not very stable right now. Let's keep it there. When I come back to Toronto to play, I'll have the money to rent an apartment and to live off." So that's kind of a character. And Albatross, the toy's been with him through over the last 2 years, by his side everywhere he went. And he and his parents wanted me to have it after he left us. So I just just came back to North America. Actually flew in at 6:20 this morning, and at the airports through the screening, I was stopped each and every time, and then they wanted to pull the toy out of my bag just to make sure that there was no explosives. But there's, to me, it's like, and I called Rodion's parents and I said, he keeps fighting me. He just he keeps fighting me everywhere I get stopped for one thing or another. So he is. I'm gonna miss him dearly. He's a great guy. He was gonna be a phenomenal player, but most importantly, he was a phenomenal person. And so I'm gonna miss him, not as a hockey player as much, but I'm gonna miss him as a friend, as a human being.
Very well said, sir.
Thanks for the story.
Thank you for the story. Once again, condolences, Dan, to you and the Amaroff family. Thank you for the time here, and we wish you and yours all the best here in this
Thank you,
upcoming
guys. Thanks
season.
for having me on. We'll see you soon.
This clip brought to you by Interchange Recycling. Visit interchangerecycling.com to learn more and to find your closest recycling center.